And the UFC 300 UFC light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira makes his first title defense against former champ Jamahal Hill in an explosive striking battle. Pereira seeks to cement his legacy after winning the belt from who lost to Hill. For Hill, it's a chance to reclaim the title he felt was his after beating Tixiecers colliding. Violence is guaranteed when Pereira and Hill throw down at UFC 300. Now, let's get into breaking down the X and O's of this fight. Jamahal Hill. Jamahal Hill is a true savant of the striking arts, a master of violence who can paint a canvas of destruction using fists, feet, knees, and elbows with equal aplomb. At his core, he's first and foremost a boxer, armed with lightning-quick hands that can leave opponents wondering what hit them. His jab is a thing of beauty, a piston-like shot that snaps out with blinding speed and pinpoint accuracy. Many an opponent has been dropped by that potent jab alone, but it's merely the entree to Hill's main course punch, an earth-shattering left cross that seems to defy physics with its combination of blistering speed and fight-ending power. When that rocket-fueled cross crashes into an opponent's jaw, you can almost see their soul leave their body as they crumple unconscious to the canvas. It's a single shot capable of immediately ending any fight. Yet, Hill is no one-trick pony. Perhaps his greatest strength is the sheer diversity of his arsenal and his ability to fluidly blend strikes together in seamless, creative combinations. With a deft pivot of the feet and shift of his weight, Hill can transition from firing blistering punch combos to lashing out with thudding kicks. His body kick is a relentless, draining weapon, a steely pendulum that saps the energy from his opponents. And when they start desperately shelling up to defend the body attack, Hill simply changes targets, uncorking fight-ending head kicks from angles his retreating foes never see coming. Even if his adversaries make it to the clinch, Hill only grows more dangerous. He leaps in with explosive knees to the body that have spelled the end for many fighters before them. With blinding speed and pinpoint accuracy, those knees crash into solar plexuses, instantly folding opponents in half like a tented pole. Hill's combination striking is on another level, as he can seamlessly chain together punches, kicks, and knees into buttery smooth combinations that leave his opponents bewildered and battered. Perhaps just as impressive as his ever-expanding offensive skill set is Hill's outstanding footwork and movement. He pivots, circles, and shifts his stance with the grace of a matador, constantly presenting new angles to attack from while making himself an elusive target. On the defensive side, Hill is far from just a headhunter with no head movement. While he does tend to keep a higher guard, he is an intelligent defensive fighter who knows when to slip, roll, or pull his head off the center line to avoid incoming fire. He manages distance extremely well, using his footwork and reach to stay at his preferred striking range where he can truly dictate the engagement. About the only potential criticism of Hill's game is his somewhat underwhelming kicking power compared to the rest of his arsenal. While still potent, his kick lacks the same fight-ending thump as his punches or knees. Then again, they don't necessarily need that one-strike competence when Hill can attach them together into multifarious combinations with his other weapons. Alex Pereira. If Jamahal Hill's striking prowess is a beautifully orchestrated symphony, then Alex Pereira's is a heavy metal con put you on your ass. Like a great composer, Pereira has built his entire game around one central thunderous moment, the universally feared left hook. It's today. When it lands cleanly on an opponent's jaw, it is akin to getting hit by a cannonball traveling at Mach speed. You can actually see the consciousness leaving a fallen foe's body as it crumples to the canvas after connecting with that nuclear warhead of a punch. It is a single, malefic movement of incredible timing, technique, and power that has ended multiple fights and combat sports careers in an instant. Respect for that left hook is quite literally beaten into Pereira's opposition over the course of a fight, because while it is his checkmate, fight-ending kill shot, it is deftly set up and baited until landed through an extended naval battering campaign. Since from the outset, Pereira will begin going to work Muay Thai style on his foe's legs and thighs. His low kicks are among the most debilitating in the game, callously chopping away at opponents' mobility and balance with no telegraph whatsoever. It's death by 1,000 brutally placed lowering kicks, slowly eroding his prey's base until they stand stuck in the mud, waiting for the arrival of that thunderous left hook. When opponents start desperately shelling up to guard against that coming storm, Pereira ups the stakes yet again by punishing their midsection. His techniques to the body are sheer mastery, most notably an iron-shelled snap front kick fired from the southpaw stance. Pereira launches these vicious body blows with the torque and potency of a mule's kick, folding opponents over and ripping away their desire to remain in his striking radius. For those determined, or perhaps just punch drunk, enough to attempt rushing through the kick barrage into the clinch, Pereira wholeheartedly welcomes them with typically violent repercussions. The former kickboxing king is a master in close quarters, hacking away at the body with slicing elbows and hammering into the solar plexus with paralyzing knees. It's in these gnashing clinch exchanges that Pereira reminds opponents they're not just fighting a striker on the feet, but also a true Muay Thai practitioner thriving in his comfort zone. Perhaps just as impressive and vital to Pereira's entire strategy as his brutal offensive output, however, is the Brazilian's elite management of range and distance. Akin to being repeatedly beaten against the ropes by a swarming puncher, Pereira simply refuses to allow opponents to find their optimal firing range. He pivots, circles, and controls the territory of the cage or ring like a masterful matador, baiting foes into wading too far forward or remaining too square at their own risk. It's a vexing display of dominant spatial possession and footwork mastery, constantly denying the other fighters opportunities to properly strike while creating optimal positioning for Pereira to unleash his own calculated violence. When you watch Pereira fight, it's like observing a compelling, ultra-violent chess match play out in real time. Mixing in feints, level changes, momentum shifts, and constant lateral movement, he deftly prods and baits his opposition onto the end of his strikes through subtle mastery of range manipulation. Whether sitting down on his patented left hook over the top while his opponents chase, intercepting their forward momentum by crashing home his body kicks, or closing the distance suddenly to batter them with knees and elbows, Pereira always seems one technical step ahead. Chinks in his armor are admittedly hard to find. Perhaps his relative lack of head movement or habit of downshifting to a more flat-footed stance during exchanges leave him open to being cracked by a flush counter from an opponent. Or maybe his tendency to wing that massively powerful hook from his hip presents the occasional telegraphing towel for defensive savants to potentially pick up on. Those feel like minor nits to pick. However, in the face of Pereira's overall mastery of pugilistic technique, timing, and sheer fight-ending power, who will dominate? The early rounds are likely to be a cautious chess match on the feet. Pereira will look to chop away at Hill's footwork and movement with his brutal calf kicks, a weapon few have found an answer for, or blindside hook. Both men are incredibly skilled defensively, so landed shots may be at a premium initially. However, a frantic space and increasing pressure from both sides will likely create a escalating back and forth as they get a read on each other's timing and entries. As the fight moves into the third round, the frenetic action could slow slightly as fatigue becomes a factor. It's in these lulls that Pereira's experience in ringcraft may give him the slight edge. I can envision a scenario where he cuts off the cage and gets Hill's back against the fence in a clinch situation. From there, Pereira's unpredictable array of short-range weaponry like knees, uppercuts, and elbows could present the perfect opportunity to shut Hill's lights out. With the momentum of the exchanges going his way, Pereira may catch the younger man with a perfectly timed spinning elbow or vicious knee as Hill attempts to break off the clinch. If that big shot lands clean on Hill's chin, the referee may have no choice but to wave it off as Pereira pours on the ground strikes for his first successful UFC title defense. Prediction: Alex Pereira by TKO or KO in round 3.